Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today, the 28th of April, near the end of the month already? Oh my. My, a lot of things happening. Hey, you're probably wondering today, maybe you're not, but so what? You're probably wondering today why I'm now doing a video on welfare fraud. Look on my X platform and oh my God, everybody's losing their damn minds. Food stamp people. Oh my God, Leo, you don't understand. Food stamp people are driving Bentleys. They're driving Mercedes. It's fraud delicious out there. How are these people getting food stamps driving these type of cars? It's unreal. It's unfathomable. They got Lamborghinis. Oh my God, how does this happen? This is shocking. New statement on the internet. 4+ million people kicked off of the food stamp program. Remember that thought. 4.3 million people kicked off the food stamp program. That's a lot of fraud, Leo. That's a lot of fraud. No, that's a lot of people kicked off the program. Fraud? Okay. I don't understand you, Mr. Naranjo. You're running for governor? Yes, I am. What is your name again? Leo Naranjo IV, candidate for governor in 2026. Yes, I am running for governor. Well, why are you so cavalier, sir, on fraud in the welfare system? You sound like you don't care. You sound like you're okay with it. You sound like somebody I would never vote for because you seem to be all right with the grift. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you out there in the internet world, welcome to the reality. I'll adjust my little camera here just a little bit. I worked in the Department of Human Assistance for 11 years as a case manager. My workload was nearly 2,500 clients, what they called them in Sacramento, California, county of. Clients were welfare recipients. So to make life simple, we're going to refer to them as clients. In that capacity, I also challenged Sacramento County for the right to what we would probably call now as DEI, but I had the opportunity to challenge and acquire the culture specialty skill for the African American culture. Long and short on that, I passed their test. So much so that a 15-minute interview turned into an hour-long interview, and the two young ladies administering me the test, when they were finished with that, looked at each other and formally said on tape, they have to change their questions to fit a more modern environment. That's how I blew that test wide open. Now, not only am I a case manager, I'm a case manager with African American culture specialty. Sounds impressive? It was only 50 cents an hour extra for your pay. But it gave you a different layer from regular workers if you were ever bumped because of layoffs. Case manager, culture worker, now there are 2 levels. As soon as they get rid of the culture levels, we bump those lower levels. Now I'm just a regular case manager. So that was the specialty for that. That's one of the big reasons I acquired it, amongst a few others. Long and short, I got my 50 cents extra, and my caseload shifted from everybody to concentrated on African Americans. People are screaming about fraud in the welfare system, most notably food stamps right now. And they're charging the people acquiring the benefits. Okay, how did we get here? How has this gone out? How has this run amok? And now people are saying something about it. During my 11 years, on average, I rolled out somewhere along the lines of 30 cases a week, if not more, on fraud reporting. Up to 30 cases a week. My catch rate, 75 to 80%. The investigators told me to back off because I reported too often. Management was displeased because I was catching so many. Well, wait a minute, Leo, that doesn't make sense. Management was mad at you for catching fraudsters? Yes. Highly upset. When Sacramento County switched to a phone banking system, nobody was there to work the system. Nobody wanted to work the system. It was newly created and it was going to be pushed, and we were moving from personal contact now to telephonic contact. And I volunteered to run that section, which I ended up running 6 months by myself, fielding calls for the entirety of Sacramento County. Solo, just me, and still reported now 20 cases a month. I mean, I did have a lot of phone calls, people, let's be realistic. 20 cases a month for a week, 20 cases a week for fraud, I was still reporting on. Do you think management congratulated me? No, they threatened to write me up for not doing my phone calling job. Answering questions, answering problems, answering this, answering that, directing folks. My job was not to report fraud, waste, or abuse. That was other people's problem, as what management said. Well, it sounds like your supervisor sucked. My supervisors were being told what to emphasize, and many of them not having any forthwith for their own self-worth or moralistic values, they went along to get along. And therefore, if management didn't want them reported, supervisors carried that down to the workforce. Stop doing this. Fraud referral people, hey, you guys are overwhelming us. Slow it down. Cut it out. Not emphasized anymore. Okay. I stopped, just me, reporting. And within 2 months, the fraud people were now clamoring in the contacts that I had with them behind the official channels. Leo, what the hell's going on? Nobody's sending us fraud reports. I said, well, considering the fact that out of a 4,000 person workforce, only one person, yours truly, blows out the number for the entire department, to the fact that the other 3,999 combined would not, could not, and never did match me on weekly reporting for fraud. Matter of fact, they didn't even come 1/10 of what I reported. So you're not getting the contacts because we were told to stop contacting you. Well, now we're at risk of losing our job because there's no work. Well, isn't that ironic? So what do you want? Work or no work? And finally, management on the investigation side came out and said, we have to have reports. We know they're out there. Why aren't we getting them? Because you said stop. Now the spigot's back on. There we go. Insta-flood. You have individuals that are on the food stamp program that are driving Lamborghinis, Mercedes-Benz, live in a 3-4 story house, have 4 or 5 bedroom house. Okay, that's fine and dandy. I'm cavalier about it because that's what the program allows, ladies and gentlemen. It's a federal program sent by the federal government to the states, downgraded further to the counties to administer. Now, the rules are the rules throughout California. It doesn't matter whether you're in Modoc County, Sacramento County, Los Angeles County, Del Norte County, San Francisco County, Riverside County even. Everybody has the food stamp rules by the feds. How they present the program might be slightly different. What they emphasize in the program could be a little twinge, but the rules are the rules are the rules. So I'm going to use the rules from when I was a worker, which was about now, almost 10 years ago. This is what the concept was. Anybody can sign up for food stamps. Anybody. James Woods and Mel Gibson could apply for food stamps. You can apply for food stamps. Everybody can apply for food stamps. That's your first fraud. You don't get to ask if the people are citizens. You don't get to require them to identify proof that they're citizens unless you want to be fired. They're an applicant. Basically, they get 10 days before they get an appointment. However, Sacramento County has been sued so often for screwing up, paying out lawyers to go against them, that they've now encouraged this problem by having what they call expedited services. That means I have nothing in my pantry. I have nothing in my cupboards. I'm bare. I'm broke. I'm on the street. I have no income. I'm homeless. What does that mean, Leo? Now you have to have an appointment in 3 days. And if you violate that rule too often, you pay big penalties to the non-government organizations suing on behalf of the welfare people who basically, like a foot on your throat, push this rule. And the county, being sued so often and losing to their own rules, bend over backwards, literally, to ensure everybody's pushed through in 3 days, no matter how many people apply. So I could apply on Monday? Yes, you can. Well, that's good, right? No. Because everybody can apply. And now that they've moved it to the internet world, now that they moved it through the phone contact world, everybody can apply. And it's questionable where they're calling from. I've had people apply for California food stamps from Indiana, and I rejected them and got chastised for it. I've caught people in Indiana on California food stamps, and I cut off their benefits, and I got chastised for it. So now everybody is applying. Second, grift. Well, when you go through the process, you get rejected. Obviously, James Woods can apply, but James Woods will obviously be rejected. Too much money. Not that he has, that he makes. This is all about how much income you make, not how much is in your piggy bank. You can be a billionaire, apply for food stamps, and literally be on the program under the financial clauses. Ooh, that's not fraud. It's eligibility. But let's take Mr. Woods. No offense, sir, but I'm just going to wear the hell out of your name because you annoyed me last week, and that's what I'm going to do today. This is annoying you a little bit. Mr. Woods applies for food stamps on Monday, gets his appointment by Wednesday, sits with us for pretty much half of a day, goes through the process with a worker for about an hour. And mind you, these people are pumping out 8 to 10 people a day, every day, no let up. And after all of that, 3 days later gets the notice. It says he was rejected. Over income. Makes too much money. Well, that's a simple process, Leo. No, it's not. Because now Mr. Woods can reapply again, and nothing's changed in his circumstances, but he gets to reapply again. So he technically can reapply 3 times in the same month with no complications. Nothing's changed. He just gets to reapply. And if they push that faster and they get him out sooner and they reject him sooner, he can reapply every day of the month if he so desires. That's the grift. Bear that in mind. But let's say you get lucky and you get on the program. Okay, I met the threshold. Whee! You're on food stamps. Congratulations. You get an EBT card. You get un carta, an EBT card for 2. Pardon my Spanish, warped Spanish sense of humor. So you get an EBT card. You've probably seen them around. They look like little Bank of America red cars, but they got a little mountain scenery in the background. When you know what you're looking for, you know what you're looking for. And they get these little cards and they have food stamp amounts on them. They're given a PIN number. Again, this is where the graft, the grift, and fraud comes in. The PIN number is for the individual's usage only, and they're cautioned and schooled and informed. Do not give this number to anybody else, because you then give them permission to use your card, and there will be no replacement. In the event of theft, the government may replace your funding depending on circumstances. Obviously, when we had the wave of theft happening at Walmart stores locally in the Sacramento area and throughout the rest of the nation, we come to find out scammers were skimming the card numbers off of food stamp recipients and cashing in, unbeknownst to the food stamp people. Yeah, that was a fraud. I'll give you that one. That was clearly illegal. But now, Joe Blow has their food stamp card. Just a representation. Don't take it literally, folks. Got my food stamp card, and I'm going to go out and buy whatever I want to buy. Well, there are limits to what you can buy. I think cold foods is all you're allowed. Personally, I really don't give a damn what they buy. You gave them the program, you gave them the benefits. Let them buy whatever they want to buy, as long as it's not cigarettes, gas, alcohol, or things like that. Food products, yes, that includes gum and sodas. Unpopular though it might be, hey folks, when you take a loan out from the bank doesn't tell you how to spend your money or where. So let's not go too far on where they can get theirs spent and how they can spend it. Back to the topic at hand. They take their food card and they go and do whatever they go and do with. The legitimate people use that card and they string it out through the month, because it's a monthly allotment based on the last number of your Social Security number. What that means is if your number in Social Security ends in a 0, your food stamp card will charge up on the 10th day of the month. If your number in Social Security ends in a 2, you'll get your stamps on the 2nd day of the month, so on and so forth down the line. That's how that works. But this is what some people do, especially your hardcore homeless, drug addicts, alcoholics, mental degenerates, however you want to call them. You get up to $200 plus a month of food stamps, they immediately go outside of the office where they just got their card, their benefits applied, and everything else. They see the dope man, boom, there you go. $100 cash, $200 in stamps, here's my PIN, la-di-da. Transactions occurred. Is that fraud? No, because the person willingly gave up their PIN and their card to another individual, a third party. Is that stupidity on their part? Yes. The fraud, if you want to call it that, is if that person walks around, comes back into the office now that they got paid $100, reports that the card is invalid because they lost it or it got stolen, that card gets canceled to get issued a new one, and you can do that 4 or 5 times in a week. Those little plastic cards, think about it. I can replace my card 5 times in a week, times 150 people in a day. How much do you think those cards cost? It might cost the county $4 or $5, but they're subsidizing whoever's printing them a lot of money. There's your third graft. So your person comes in after selling their food stamp card, wants another one, old one gets turned off, new one gets turned on, and now they go out and do the same thing to another dope man sucker. That's illegal, yes. You're selling your food stamp card now. I had a dope dealer sucker, if you want to call him that. I'm not going to say dope dealer, because that would be factual. It's not, it's alleged. But I had a questionable person that made a purchase for a food stamp card, gave up the $100, and then found out the card didn't work. When I told him what happened, they were highly pissed off. So I asked that person, did you think that you got frauded? Well, hell yes, I did. Do you think that you got robbed by $100? Well, hell yes, I did. And then I explained how he got took. And if he thought it wasn't the right thing that happened to him, that the person violated food stamp regulations by selling their card, he could make a report to fraud referral and report that person. And he did. And my coworkers cracked the hell up because I put somebody on my payroll to report fraud for me. It was the first time they'd ever seen that happen in the welfare office. Comical moment. But that generally only happens very small amount of time, because if you get caught doing that as the seller, the buyer is going to beat your ass for pulling that con. You'll be lucky if you're surviving at the end of the month. It's a dangerous game, by the way. But anyway, that's how fraud happens in 3 ways. Now you're on the food stamp program, you're going along, and every quarter, used to be every quarter, now it's semi-annually, every 6 months, they give you a report to fill out for your paperwork. How are you doing on your food stamps? Are you getting employed? Are you employed? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? No, you're not doing anything? Okay. Sign stamp, poof, paperwork goes forward. Whee! The system's automatically supposed to turn you off. And as soon as that happens, the county demands that you put the recipient right back on, because they don't want them off of the program. They want them in the program. Now, I had a young lady from Indianapolis say that she needed her, what they called the QR7, Quarterly Report 7, and she needed that document to continue her food stamps. And I said, okay, are you on vacation? She says, yes, I'm out of state right now visiting family. Now, mind you, in the food stamp computer system in the welfare office, you get to see, based on the case number, every transaction that food stamp card generates, everywhere. Whether it's in Sacramento, whether it's a purchase of snacks in Del Norte, whether you bought from Piggly Wiggly in Texas, whether you, as in this lady's case, were in Indianapolis for 3 solid months shopping at the local grocery store. It tells me everywhere you're shopping. And the rule for me was very simple. Under 30 days, God bless you, you're on vacation. Good luck with your California issued food stamps. On the 31st day, you relocated, I cut your case, go ask those people for food stamps now. Let them deal with you. Management did not like that either. Said I was hyper aggressive. So this young lady needed her reporting documents faxed to her, and she gave me an Indianapolis number to fax it, which I did, and then I promptly cut her food stamps off because she was out of state for over 3 months. We get to see that. Another big flag for me automatically was if you had a young lady who applied for food stamps, had no income, and had children. Well, Leo, why is that a red flag? That woman needed help for her family to feed them. Yes, that's the implication, ladies and gentlemen. The woman needed help for her children. The children, just for the children, as Rush Limbaugh used to say. For the kids, for the child. The woman trying to feed 4 family members. But there's no husband in the house. There's no boyfriend in the house. They're in a house, but there's no rent. There's no mortgage. There are no bills being paid because you can't do that with food stamps. So as soon as I got those cases, immediately they went to fraud investigation. Immediately, without even asking any other question. Woman with kids, no income coming in, that's a fraud case. Go look at it. That was my standard. And lo and behold, what we found out in evoking that standard is we had people who, A, had husbands or boyfriends in the house, but they weren't reported as being there. B, the husband was making like $5,000 or $6,000 a month because they were a construction guy. Hell, if they were a manager, they even made more money. One young lady was netting almost $800 a month in food stamps. When the investigator showed up on her front door, this is what I was told. Leo, I approached the doorway. The woman came out, card in hand, and she said, here, just take it. I don't need it anymore. I'm done. Why was that? Because her husband was a contractor in Roseville, which, by the way, is where they lived. and he was pulling in almost $7,500 a month as a construction worker. But they were on the food stamp program getting $800 of taxpayer money. Do you think I was praised for that catch? No, I was condemned for it. And it's not just English speakers, it's the foreign language speakers as well. A young lady tried to bribe me off in Spanish, not understanding that Naranjo is a Hispanic name, not Naranjo that people like to mispronounce. I look Caucasian with an African-American heritage background. Ooh, and I'm Hispanic, Mexican and Spain, Castilian Spanish, no less. So do I habla? Very well I habla. I don't habla enough for legal professional purposes, so I ask for translators, but I entiendes muy bien. So when this lady is telling my translator in Spanish, what can I do to keep my food stamps going? How do I get him to stop doing what he's doing? Can you tell him anything I can do, please? And I'm listening to all this transpire that when I was all done with my paperwork, I looked up and I told the translator, please let the client know that attempting to bribe me in Spanish ain't gonna work. Talking to you to get to me to be bribed ain't gonna work. And if you don't want this to be worse than what it is, stop trying it. You got caught. Stamps are going to be ended. Suck it up for a day. You just reapply tomorrow because that's how the program allows. Well, the translator, who thought I was an idiot as well, didn't understand that I did know Spanish enough to tell him or her to be in check. Let me tell you, from that point forward, when we had those type of conversations start to bring up, those translators wanted to be anywhere other than in that room with me and that person trying to bribe me. And one translator told the lady, stop, because he understands everything you're saying and I can't help you. And word quickly got around. He don't look Hispanic, but don't try the Hispanic game in his presence. Punjabi folks, Indian folks, they're a little bit different. How I generally caught them, because the younger Punjabi Indian clientele applied on behalf of the parents. But when there was a problem in that culture, men come in, women are second. I understand that as a nuance. But in America, the younger generation flies through the door hot under the breath because the family food stamps was cut off. But mom and dad are still working their way into parking lot because they're elderly and they've been left to their own vices. So as soon as they sat down, now we have a conversation with the people I need to be speaking with, which are the clients. No, you have to talk to us. We're their interpreters. We're the spokesperson. That's fine. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fraud investigate your ass too. Because it seems like you're using their stamps, and you don't want me to push this a little further because I could throw in an investigation for elderly abuse. Holy shit! This guy's not effing around. Yes, I let that one go one time. And I had an elderly gentleman that got taken advantage of by his son. Well, when I did finally fraud that case and I got him arrested, at that point forward, if you look, smelled, or seem like an elderly abuse case, your ass got reported. It wasn't for me to determine. That's what they're for. And I caught a few of those people as well. How does this relate to food stamp fraud, Leo? I mean, you're doing a lot of reporting. The investigators are doing this thing. What? I don't understand. But how are these people getting over on the program like this? Number one, who allows it to happen? You and I as voters. Be honest, folks. You don't care what happens to the welfare department. You give them money via taxes. Your county staff takes care of the problem. Poof, out of sight, out of mind. You give your kid $20 and your kid's going to go batshit crazy, pardon my French. Especially if they're 7 years old. Wow, look what I got. Look what mom gave me. Woo-hoo, they're gone to do whatever they do. You don't guide or mentor them or check them on most occasions. Same with the welfare department. You have checks and balances, but nobody's really watching because you, the voter, don't care enough to impress people. You want responsible folks in charge of these programs. First problem, voters. Second problem, people you have in office. Knowing that you are the first check and you've abrogated yourself to not checking. There's rules, but no one's enforcing them. And so you create things. You do things with money that most people don't notice until it becomes embarrassing and they have no choice. And then you crucify a worker because they had to have done it, not me. I'm management. Oh, no, never. My concept is if you have 3 or 4 workers that screw up, you discipline the workers. You have union manuals, you have rules, regulations, contracts. Everything is outlined in dealing with discipline on workers. But when you have 20 or 30 of them cutting up and acting up, now it's time to start going after managers and supervisors. That's where I come in. Been there, done that. Feds pass the program down to the state passes it down to the counties go stupid with all that money. Sacramento County, prime example. Remember I said you could apply for food stamps every day if you wanted to. That's within the rules. But the county gets to charge the feds for every application they take in. The application administration process, the bloat for the cost to run the program. You have the appointment. They mandated you sit with a client for an hour. You could determine within 15 seconds, and I did, which many clients were thankful for because I didn't waste their time any more than had already been wasted. James Woods were to sit down with me. This is what I would tell Mr. Woods. Hi, James. Congratulations, sir. You're applying for food stamps. My name is Leo Naranjo, county worker. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you an option of how you can go about getting food stamps today. It's the application process. You're going to tell me how you want me to waste your day or to spend your time. Looking over your paperwork, initially glancing before you sat down with me, this is what I've concluded. You make way too much money. All I need you to do is sign in 3 places. I'll do the rest. You'll get the notifications that say you're over income. You're done, 15 seconds. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, you're out of here. Or we can spend the whole hour, maybe an hour and a half, as I make copies, take information, write things down, to tell you a week later you're denied for over income. Well, why am I over income? Well, Mr. Woods, you make over $1 million a year. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. You're over income. Well, thank you, Mr. Naranjo. I appreciate that. Where do you want me to sign? Boom, you're gone. I could clear my 10 clients out in an hour and a day. Do you think management was happy with that? No, they were pissed. Now, if I had somebody that was on the cusp, I would tell them it's in my professional opinion, we run through the numbers because I'm not even sure that it's a guaranteed denial. But let's see what the system tells us. We'll speed it up a little bit to forego any unnecessary delays for your afternoon. People were greatly appreciated for that. Now, how does that relate to the food stamp program? Again, let me roll it back to when I was there. These rules have changed since then, so don't quote me. Back when I was there, just to use a number, the food stamp program ceiling was $2,200 a month. So if you made over $2,200 a month, you were denied. I don't care if it was 50 cents. I don't care if it was $1. I don't care if it was a penny. If you were over $2,200 a month, you were denied food stamps. Boop, out of here. That was just it. Parameters of the program. If you were under $2,200 a month, you qualified for food stamps. That's what they told you. What they didn't tell you was how much. Mind you, basic single-person food stamp amount was close to around $200. But the closer you get to the $2,200 figure, the less you make in food stamps. So if I make $2,100 a month, I qualify for food stamps. You're thinking, hey, I got $200 a month. No, slick, you got $5 in food stamps. That was it. People got pissed when they heard that. $5? What in the F am I supposed to do with $5? All kinds of barrage and foul words and languages and everything else like that. Hey, that's not me. That's the program. But the county didn't care for that. Now, the feds come along and they've acquiesced to the counties and the states. We need to put more people on the food stamp program because they're not eating well. They're having hard times. That's a Democrat push. So they raised the eligibility ceiling. Follow with me, folks. It gets slippery from here. It used to be $2,200 a month to qualify. But now the feds have stepped in, and just using numbers for an example, you now qualify for food stamps if you have $4,000 or less. Oh my God, I qualify? Yes, you do. Previously declined people flooding back into the system. Less than $4,000 a month because of high cost of living, everybody's clawing back into the system. Every application the county gets paid for. Here they come. Well, Leo, that seems fair. You get your $4,000 a month ceiling. Yay, I qualify for food stamps, and I'm a single person, and I get my $200. Ha ha! Bully on you, Naranjo, you moron. You don't know nothing. I'm going to get my $200 because I only make $3,000 a month, and I qualify. You qualify, yes. What they didn't tell you was while they moved the ceiling up for qualification, they did not change the income level of what you get paid. The $2,200 cap is still there. So from $2,200 to $4,000, guaranteed, and I don't use that word loosely, your amount of food stamps is $5 a month. Period. Same concept. Closer you are, less you get to the 2,200 figure up and down that scale. The eligibility window increased. The window for payments did not. Where's the theft? It's not from the people getting the benefit. It's not from the people who are allowing EBT cards en masse to go through their stores. That's a transaction for them. There's no fraud about that. Unless they're skimming the numbers, then yeah, I'll agree with you, that's fraudulent. But having people use their card, I don't care if somebody comes in there with 500 cards and empties out $200 a card, that's not fraud. That's business transactions. The fraud was committed by the folks who sold that card for cash. $200 in food stamps gets you $100 hard cash. That's on the street. Almost everybody who's in the welfare program or close to it understands that. Those of you who have never heard of that concept of the 1 for 2 denomination, that's because you don't know, because you were never in the system or you're aware of the system. Ergo, you pay your taxes without keeping an eye on the prize. Where is the money going for all of these cases then, Leo? You have union workers that have union contracts, that pay union dues, that argue with the counties to get lucrative salaries to do what they do. Now, the fourth leg of the fraud takes place with the management teams and collusion with the county elements, okay? They're not separate entities. They work closely together, folks. Sacramento County, prime example. Department of Human Assistance boss, he works hand in hand with the former boss that's now one of the city managers. So what do you think they do? And the order came down to the staff. In your 8-hour day, you're going to charge off your time of working in the food stamp program. 6 to 7 hours a day. But I only saw 3 food stamp clients. Most of my work was in the cash aid welfare single payment category. I worked 6 hours in that today. No, Leo. Whether you worked it or not, you're going to charge 7 hours towards the food stamp program. Don't you understand? We get paid for that. So in layman's terms, ladies and gentlemen, the county had and ordered its staff. And I got some of those emails that as a union member, I hotly contested until they came off of my ass, because that was against the law what they were doing. The county mandates through the department that their workforce charge their work against the food stamp programs. That then gets returned back to the feds as an inflated administrative cost to administer the food stamp program in Sacramento County. And then the feds reimburse the county. Now, the rules guiding as far as your eligibility to work, you have to be looking for work, getting work, having a job to be able to get on food stamps, new rules that Trump has enforced. Those were rules before, but California always fought to get a waiver and received one. They were exempt from the working requirement. That's the fifth fraud that was allowed. Government pushed that. Because what they found by puffing up the numbers of what the workers were doing, whether they actually did it or not, they charged the feds. The feds reimbursed massive amounts of money. So for educational purposes, if it only cost me $2 million to actually run the program, but I've blown up the numbers for administrative cost fees and everything else, that I now have to pay $5 million to run the program, but it's only really $2 that I'm doing. The feds give you $5 million. What did I just do as a county administrator through the Department of Human Assistance? I got $3 million extra dollars for my county general fund coffers. Woohoo! And we're gonna give bonuses or make a position for somebody that shouldn't be working, or give some extra pay bumps to friends, or start a new program over here because the voters rejected it over there. That's how that theft works. Did the county officials know about it? Of course they freaking did. Does the Department of Human Assistance officials know about it? Of course they freaking do. Everybody likes to bring up COVID. Let's bring up COVID. Oh, guess what Sacramento County got? They got $1 million to go down to the employees. What did they do? We have $1 million of COVID money, almost $2, that we're supposed to give to the employees. Well, any individual can figure that one out. $2 million to disperse around 5,000 employees. Make it equitable. COVID money, right? Sounds rational. Department didn't want to do that. They took their COVID money, spent nearly $750,000 on a consultant to tell them you need to give the money to the employees, and what was left over, the employees got a few $100, management scarfed the rest. That's how that scam works. That's how that grift and theft worked. Now you see why I was not well liked in the welfare department, because I was the Republican that stood against the bullshit. And I was a union member that stood against their bullshit too. At the same time, balancing between my job, union responsibilities, defending people against bogus charges from the county. Yeah, I was a busy mofo. And ensuring that all 5,000 county employees were safe wherever they worked through the entirety of Sacramento County in my 8-hour day. And I still did more than the average worker. And that's the 6th way that there's fraud in the system. Because the average worker does not care of those type of issues. They have a job. They're thankful for it. They'll do what they're told to do. They could see an axe murderer standing in front of them. Their focus is on eligibility. Can you qualify for food stamps? Yes. Do you have a dirty background? Is everything about you scream fraud? Yes. Do I care to report it? No. And they don't. Because nobody cares. $4.3 million people have been kicked off of the food stamp rolls. Before COVID, Sacramento County raped the food stamp program, literally. And CalWorks, and Medi-Cal, and a few other programs, but food stamps was the cash cow. First term Trump, that cash cow got slashed. But they pushed it into Medi-Cal. Then Biden came in and they blew up Medi-Cal. Now that's the cash cow. Trump 2.0 killed that cash cow off as well, slashed. Sacramento County has now relinquished the headquarters, the gem of the Department of Human Assistance in downtown Sacramento, 1725 28th Street, is no longer a county building. They've already constricted because of the loss of income. Sacramento County now has a problem in budgetary losses called the deficit. That's the effects of losing fraud in this county. And that's just Sacramento County. There are 57 other counties throughout California. Los Angeles is probably worse than ours because they had the so-called consortium that created the very computer system utilized here to track welfare recipients. They're the boss of that program, literally. Fraud, waste, and abuse? Ladies and gentlemen, let me put it to you like this. Sheriff Bianco doesn't know jack diddly about fraud, waste, and abuse in the welfare program. Most of the other cabinets have no idea about fraud, waste, and abuse in the welfare program. Nick Shirley, impressive little individual that he is, doesn't know diddly jack about the fraud, waste, and abuse in the welfare program. You cut me loose into that program, some people's heads are going to be rolling on platters because I know damn well what they're doing and how they're doing it. That's why folks like me are not looked at by the establishment with any love. It's fear and loathing because we're looking to make changes. They're trying to avoid it because they want to continue stealing from the trough that they're used to stealing from. So while everybody's gung-ho and happy about this welfare thing online, don't believe the hype. It's been going on. And the first people who caused the problem are us, the voters. Let's be honest and realistic. We allowed this to happen because we took our eyes away from the people who are supposed to be doing their jobs, and they haven't been. And then we're all aghast. Oh my God. Look what Bobby did. He took a black magic marker to my white wall and drew an F.U. picture with Snoop Dogg humping on what's her name? Because you didn't watch little Bobby with his magic marker when you told him to go draw something. And he did. It wasn't what you expected. Well, same thing here, the concept. It wasn't what we expected. But now we know it. How do we fix it? Do we even want to? My name is Leo Naranjo IV. I'm a candidate for governor in 2026. Whether it's in Modoc, Del Norte, Sacramento, Ocean City, Los Angeles, Riverside, anywhere I've gone, I've changed my tone. I don't speak to 20-year-olds as if I'm talking to 70-year-olds and vice versa. What I have not changed is the substance of my speeches. The content is the same. Other candidates can't say that or make that claim. So on this, yes, I'm cavalier about the fraud people keep reporting on because I've seen it. I've been knee-deep in it. I've been fighting against it. The question is, do you want it changed? Are you expecting change? And if you want change, here I am. Leo Naranjo IV, governor, 2026 in California. Deeds, not words, is a very powerful statement. I don't tell you nonsense just to hear myself speak. I'm telling you from what I know, and I'm telling you how I'm going to fix it and what's going to happen as a result of it. They don't want you to know that. They being the establishment. So God bless each and every one of you. Don't forget to vote for me on Election Day. If you want changes, here I am. But if you like the situation where it is, there's 62 other candidates on the ballot. God bless you in your pick. It's not up to me. It's not up to any other candidate that you're going to decide upon. It's you, the voters, that determine where California goes. The weight is on your shoulders. We just give you the arguments. And I hope I've presented mine as factually, as truthful, and as brutally honest as I can, even though I'm laughing at the situation, because for me, it's kind of humorous and ironic. Now we're concerned about fraud. but we've been trying to stomp the people that have been fighting against it for the last 10 plus years. Everybody have a great afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine. God bless you all, and we'll talk to you later on.